Remember, King Mwanga ascended to the throne at the age of 16 in 1884, succeeding his father Mutesa the First. Mwanga blamed all his problems and the erosion of his primacy on religion, and specifically on the white man. He therefore decided to eliminate agents of the white man. That's how the murders happened. They simply climaxed on June 3rd, but they had happened before. Mutesa himself, the father of Mwanga, who at one time converted to Islam, had his own disagreement with the white man, the Arab, who had converted to Islam, did not want the Mwanga, Mutesa, who had declined circumcision, to lead them in prayers. He also received the news that meat slaughtered by his agents was no longer eaten by Muslims. So one time he collected many of them, that must have been 1873, and ordered for their execution. The pilgrims who have gathered at Namugongo shrines, where some of these people were martyred, as PFF, we ask you to pray for Uganda. Because what happened, Anna Mwanga and his father Mutesa is being repeated, and the same reasons by Museveni and his son Museveni. Mr. Museveni has, over the course of his administration, 40-year administration, assumed the same status that these ancient kings assumed. Museveni has become the supreme leader, the supreme judge, the speaker of parliament, everything. On his command, you can be imprisoned, you can be exiled, you can even be executed. If you've seen photographs in newspapers, not the exact faces of those who were executing the martyrs in Namugongo, the warriors. They are not different from JAT, or Special Forces Command, originally commanded by Museveni's son. The unfortunate thing is that Museveni's son, Kainerugaba, who is torturing citizens and celebrating their pain on social media, has taken cruelty and brutality a notch higher. Like Mutesa the First and Mwanga, Museveni and Moza have become one authority on each and everything, on everybody and on everything. So that's the situation that people who are going to Namugongo must reflect on and pray for the country, because we are exactly where these matters were more than 140 years ago. So I want to make an appeal to the clergy who are leading prayers in Namugongo as the People's Front for Freedom. We want to ask them first, as clergy, to disassociate themselves from the devil-like conduct of Museveni's administration. Evils such as kidnapping citizens, torturing them, and the committing of extrajudicial killings. You still remember how Boxer Isaac Senyange, who was commonly known as Zebra, was killed. Sheikh Chirevu, Yasin Kauma and others, their murder is not different from the matters that we are celebrating. Citizens who were murdered in the last general elections, especially around 2020. The Kayunga, those who were killed during the Kayunga protests when the Kawako of Uganda had been stopped from traveling to Kayunga. The murders in Kasese. So the programs must reject Museveni's brutality. The summons this year should be about state brutality, forced disappearance, kidnap, and torture. Speaking against the brutality and cruelty of leaders 140 years ago, and I'm talking about the clergy, speaking about these evils, and then you dine with leaders who are committing the same crime today, will make you the clergy, look like accomplices. We all must take courage from Namugongo matters to fight for our right, especially the right to life. We must stimulate the extraordinary courage of these matters, and that's why people are trekking from their respective districts to Namugongo. We want to emulate people in the face of brutality continue professing their faith. Those of you who are going to Namugongo, who are belong to political parties, this is exactly what you must do. You don't just go to Namugongo as a ceremony. You are remembering people who picked courage in the face of brutality. They got murdered for their faith. That's what we must exhibit as we are fighting for our right to be free. And that takes me to Dr. Besigye and the various NRM cadres and judges that are trying him. On Thursday last week, the Nakawa Chief Magistrate, Christine Nantebe, denied Dr. Besigye mandatory bail after clocking 180 days on remand as commanded by Article 3 of the Constitution. This magistrate said the reason she was denying Dr. Besigye bail was because they have what she called the practicing guidelines issued by the Chief Justice Owinidoro. And she said even when you clock 180 days on remand, Owinidoro said the application for bail can only be handled by the High Court. This magistrate was reminded that when you deny bail, mandatory bail, under your guidelines, you must refer your ruling to the High Court. But as you all witnessed, she refused. She refused and then went ahead to hear an application by the regime to have Dr. Besigye committed. Committal of suspects who have been on remand for 180 days is intended to deny them the mandatory bail, but also is intended to prolong their stay in prison, because you are now at the mercy of judges in the High Court who will remind you that the criminal session hasn't started. So all these things are done to ensure that Dr. Besigye stays in prison. That's why in the earlier cases for other suspects, when you are about to clock 180 days in prison, they will commit you at least a week before, say that you don't apply for mandatory bail. But for Dr. Besigye, they are even unable to commit him before the 180 days. In fact, he had been in prison on remand for 196 days the time this application was presented. So the regime couldn't go ahead with the, so they couldn't keep Dr. Besigye in prison without violating the constitution. So they needed the help of the magistrate, which help Christine Nantege, chief magistrate, offered. She refused to grant Dr. Besigye bail. She also refused to refer her ruling to the High Court, and instead they committed Dr. Besigye, but also remanded Dr. Besigye up to 12 of this month. This is the first time something like this is happening, that you have seized all the pre-trial processes. You will refer the suspect to the High Court, but you require the suspect to continue appearing before you. Maybe she was fidgeting. She didn't even remember that this has never happened, that you refer a suspect to the High Court for trial and then ask the state to come and present an application, because there is a pending application by Museveni to have access to Dr. Besigye's phones, so that they can use his phones as evidence. So the moment you refer a case to the High Court, it means all the pre-trial cases have ceased. But this magistrate Nantege, even after committing Dr. Besigye, she said Dr. Besigye will appear before on 12th June. That's why I said last week that maybe these judicial officers are using Dr. Besigye to do internship. Some of them who should go to Makerere and other law schools to learn law. So they are now using Besigye to learn and refresh themselves. Because there is no way you're going to commit a person to the High Court and then you require the same person to appear before you as if the pre-trial processes are still continuing. So please remember that Dr. Besigye will be coming back to court on 12th of this month. Related to this is the continuation to fabricate evidence. As you all saw, without shame, the regime in their summary evidence, because when you are committing a person to the High Court, you present evidence that you rely on. So in their summary evidence, they included other PFF leaders, including myself, the Road Mayor Elias Lukwago, the Honorable Salam Musumba, and they claimed that the Honorable Salam Musumba had organized the meeting to be attended by myself, the Road Mayor, and all these meetings were meant to overthrow government. And it's one of those meetings that Dr. Besigye was organizing. They also further mentioned the 36 PFF leaders and promoters who were kidnapped from Kisumu. That they are going to Kisumu was part of the conspiracy by Besigye and Abiobedi Butare to remove government. Remember, the 36 were charged. They continued reporting to Nakawa Court. Eventually they were taken to the High Court, and the High Court granted them bail. After so many months without any witness being presented and any evidence, the High Court discharged them. So the case remained, but they were discharged. They are no longer reporting. Now they are saying they are going to Kisumu was one of those events that Dr. Besigye was using to overthrow government. So in all this conspiracy, you can see without shame that these fellows, Museveni and his son, that they have no credible evidence to present before any tribunal, not even the courts of law, but any tribunal.